Kitsap literary artists and writers and its monthly author showcase. I am your host, Peter Stockwell. Author Lisa Preston is visiting with us this month at the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Studios. Lisa participated in the author event at the Kitsap Mall in Silverdale after Thanksgiving last year. She is an award-winning writer of fiction and nonfiction books. Welcome to our broadcast for Kitsap literary artists and writers.
Thank you so much.
You write all kinds of different things. Mysteries are fascinating to me. You have a series of mysteries that you are writing. Tell us about The Horseshoer.
Well, I had done a couple of standalone novels, a psychological thriller and then a psychological suspense, when my agent suggested it's time for a series. And I wanted to do a series that wasn't being done. I didn't want to do The Cook or the Gardener. I came up with this young woman horseshoer, high school dropout, just trying to make it in the world, young 20s in rural Oregon.
So your day is filled with various exciting events. Tell us about this rescuing of horses and dogs and training animals and the racing venues in which you participate.
Well, I love to run and I love to ride. I have two really capable horses and I live on the Olympic Peninsula, over 1 million acres of public land there just laced with trails. So you can combine running and riding in this sport called ride and tie. And I worked out on those trails this morning and I use rescue critters in that.
So this stuff enters into your Horseshoer series?
Well, there's certainly a lot of details that come alive in this facet of a horse or a hoof, or the way you manage them and the things you observe that feel very real to readers. I get a lot of feedback about that.
Very good. Well, as you may know and have heard, writers write what they know. So obviously that's what you're kind of trying to do. What's your history in this paramedic and police officer and detective life you've had? Tell us about all of this, because it's exciting to me.
Well, I retired from a mid-sized police agency. It was up in Alaska. I worked all the weird detective jobs like crimes against children and vice. I used to buy drugs undercover. I went back to the street as a sergeant. I went back to the desk as the internal affairs sergeant. Before being at the PD, I was a paramedic for the fire department.
So you were internal affairs. I don't know what we do with internal affairs.
I'm thinking say thank you.
Well, very good. Marketing is a challenge for many writers. What do you do to find engaging your readership and your followers for your books? How do you do this?
I'm always willing to connect with readers. I answer every email. Those first two novels were book clubby type novels, and I've sat in with book clubs that read The Measure of the Moon or Orchids in Stone via Skype or Zoom meeting. I go online and have a glass of wine with the group, usually the gals as they're reading the novel and after they've read it and they're discussing it. Answer every email, as I said, and I mentor emerging writers. And all of us writers are also readers. Well,
we should. You read within your genre?
When I'm working, I don't. When I'm working on a nonfiction is when I get to enjoy fiction. When I'm working in fiction, I read nonfiction because I don't want to influence my work accidentally ever.
Okay, very good. You also write these nonfiction books you're talking about. Tell us about those.
Well, my last big nonfiction was a hardback on equine nutrition. I find nonfiction so different in that you simply see a hole in the market and you fill the hole. So there had been hundreds of good scientific studies out in the last decade, but nobody had done the good nonfiction work for the lay public, so I wrote that. About 10 years ago, I had done a book on alternative treatment for animals, and now the publisher wants to release an updated version. So in 2020, the new version of, they called it Natural Healing for Cats, Dogs, Horses, and Other Animals. 150 alternative therapies available to owners and caregivers. So that'll come out next year.
Very good. Who publishes your books?
The mystery series is with Skyhorse. Some of the nonfiction is with Skyhorse Publishing also. The first two novels were with Thomas and Mercer.
That's an Amazon
imprint, yes.
Imprint,
yeah, that's a crime fiction imprint.
Right. I know we've got a good friend who writes and has done pretty well for himself with Thomas Mercer.
I'm thinking you're talking about Bob?
Yeah, I'm talking about Bob. Yeah.
Love
And
Bob.
for those of you who are out there in this world, that's Robert Degoni and his Tracy Crosswhite series. You should read him too.
Definitely.
Many writers set a time for the day to write. What do you do?
I work in the mornings. I find I'm more productive. The house was quiet. That's just the way our household runs. The hubby and the dog go away. And I'm possibly a bit smarter in the mornings, it seems to me. But when I'm on deadline, I will get up early if I have to. If I need to put in 12 hours today, I'll start working at 4. And I'll come back to it in late morning and early afternoon, late afternoon, and evening.
So you are fully retired from police work?
I am, yes. Full-time writer.
And a full-time writer. So you did give up your day job.
I did.
Very good. I gave up mine too, but it's called retirement. Just like you. We have a mission to expand the knowledge of people when we write, and animal rescue and care. This mission of yours, how are you pressing it even further? I mean, you gave us a little touch on it. What do you do? Do you have websites? Do you have meetings you go to, events that you follow up on?
If you mean specifically about critters, I speak. I gave a talk to a horse club just recently. Two different horse clubs had requested me to come. One on endurance riding. That's when you ride 50 miles to 100 miles in a day. I did a talk on equine nutrition for them. Regarding rescue, I've kind of find that a local thing rather than a global thing. I don't necessarily evangelize on it, but my current dog and the dog before him were rescues headed for the kill shelter.
And you don't want them there?
No, they were good dogs. My current guy is a great dog.
Yeah. I have friends who have horses and dogs. I actually have 2 cats myself that, yeah, they might be getting to the point where being 16, I don't know, they should probably go in for their medical checkup to see how they're doing. They seem very, very healthy, so I'm not too worried about them. A book club wanted to get a hold of you so that you could have a meeting and make a presentation to them. How are they going to do that?
Email is a good way, and they can find that at the website, www.lisapreston.com.
And we're going to put that across your name, right across your head, so that they'll be able to see that. You've got some projects coming up?
I do. The next Rainy Dale Horseshoer mystery after the clincher is Dead Blow, and that comes out in November. I've turned in the draft for the 3rd one. That's Forging Fire. Will be out in 2020. And my agent's shopping a new series that he calls Indiana Jones, if Indiana Jones were a modern woman, bush pilot, Alaskan linguist, single mom.
Very good. So how are these going to, are you going to have events that you're going to market with them to get them out there? Do you have any scheduled events?
I get asked to quite a few conferences and festivals. I just did the Tucson Book Festival. I was up at Left Coast Crime in March. Okay. Next month I'm headed to the Western Writers of America conference. It's in Tucson this year. I'll be at Thriller Fest in New York City in July.
Oh yeah, I would like to go back there. I haven't been in the last 3 years, so.
New York City in July.
I know, it's warm.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Great conference.
Yeah. Well, we all begin with our first word, and we construct until we have, and continue to construct until we've come up with a manuscript. Mm-hmm. Imagine you follow the same sort of thing. Do you have any advice for the writer of fiction or nonfiction that is just getting started in this business?
What I would say to that person, and actually every person who is trying to get there, get paid and published, is the #1 failing where people let themselves go is they don't rewrite enough. It feels like such a big accomplishment to come up with that draft, and it is a big accomplishment, but I liken it to a relationship where you were infatuated when you came up with that draft, and now you need to make the marriage work. You have to rewrite that book over and over and over. You have to do it scene by scene, and within each scene, line by line. You have to really make it work in the very big picture, but also in tight focus on every aspect of character and plot.
Do you work with the same idea that the rest of us do, that the manuscript we create is a bunch of garbage?
Absolutely. You have to be willing to barf on the page so that you can go clean it up.
And you have editors that do you have independent editors that you use, or do you use the editors through your publishing company?
My publishers have always had editors, and sometimes they'll have a developmental editor as well. I have been at this quite a long time, and I'm pretty hard on myself, and I don't send things in until I'm awfully happy with them. So sometimes I use beta readers, and my honey is a great person to plot with, and just he'll be headed down this road with a character or plot, and I'll say, no, don't go there, and he says, okay, well, how about this? And I love plotting with him.
You mean you have a person, it's really close to you and your family, that reads your material? We're not supposed to do that. No, my wife...
This is before just plotting with him. He's great that way. You do that with your honey?
My wife reads my materials, and I read it to her, and she reads chapter by chapter. Sometimes she'll tell me, don't read anything to me. I want to read the whole thing. Get the manuscript finished, and I'll read it, and then we'll see what's... She doesn't do any editing because that's not really her area. She's very global, so therefore she tells me just where the story is missing, where it seems to wander away, and then we'll fix that. And
that's
then,
terrific.
Of course, I do have beta readers that get out there and read the material, and then my editors go to work on it. And so yeah, readers or writers out there, it's very important. Remember, the first manuscript you write isn't going to be that great. I hate to tell you.
And that's fine.
But when you get done with it, you're going to be very, very proud of what you've accomplished. Now, you do other things besides just writing books. Tell us about what you do to help writers.
Okay, as I said, I want to mentor emerging writers, and I teach. The standard workshops I do are the big one on rewriting called the Write Rewrite. I do a class on query writing because I am the queen of how to get an agent. I'm on my 6th agent.
Are we supposed to do them one at a time?
I did do them one at a time, and it's been a long, long road for me, and I'm delighted with my agent.
Yeah.
I was delighted with most of my agents. And that's the way the business rolls. You just have to keep going. Perseverance, endurance, or marathon running will teach you a lot about perseverance.
Yeah. So you talk about agents. You have an agent for your nonfiction and a different agent for your fiction books?
No, I use one literary agent. I'm with Mark Gottlieb at Trident Media. I've been with him for 4 years. But as I said, he is my 6th agent. I have been at this that long. It was hard to get the first one. Its job doesn't get easier.
No, it doesn't get easier. And when you started writing, you were also working.
When I first started writing, I was 8. But
well, that's going back into history.
Yes,
Not very far back, though.
I've always been a writer and a reader. But seriously, when I first started writing to get published, yes, I was working. I was a cop then.
And you let your day job continue to support you while you got the manuscripts put together and queried your agents and found the publishers.
And tried and failed and tried again. Dozens and dozens and literally hundreds and hundreds of times.
So in this world, we're going to make sure that we keep producing the materials.
Absolutely. You cannot get there if you don't keep going.
Because we have a reading public, and we want to make sure we continue to have that reading public. It's also one of the things I have found when we're out on the venues that we have, is a lot of times people will tell me, oh, I don't read. And I find that fascinating because as a reading teacher, first question that comes to my mind is, what's your reading problem? What dyslexia do you have? What kind of history turned you off to a book, to reading a book? So it's interesting, but we'll continue to produce the books because eventually some of these people might read our books. Do you have a big following up in the Port Angeles area?
I have a following. I find it pops up in odd little areas of the country that I'll be hearing from book groups or readers from all sorts of places. I hear from readers in the UK and Australia, where the first book was released really early, and you just never know where you're going to get your readership from.
And when you get invited someplace that's out of this area, do you try to make it there?
I do, and then, as I said, I'll Skype in if I need to.
Okay. And Skype is a good way to do it.
Right.
The rest of us need to learn how to do that a little bit better so we can have that kind of a connection with readers in other parts of the world.
It really can make the evening more meaningful for the book group that's looking at your work.
Yeah. So, if you were to decide that you wanted to be part of our events and come down to Bremerton, are you willing to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the time we had in November, and I'd look forward to more of it later this year.
We're trying to expand that, and so I'll put you on that list for the October event. And would you like to read one of your books? I would love to have you do that.
I'd be happy to.
Now, you are an award-winning writer. Tell us about this award here. This Kindle Fire First.
Kindle First.
Kindle First.
My publisher, Thomas and Mercer, of the first novel, Orchids and Stone, wanted to release it in the Kindle program early, and then it was available only to the Kindle readers. And my agent called me up and said, or grabbed me and said, "You're above the fold in the newspaper." I have no idea what that meant, but he said, "You're getting downloaded more than J.K. Rowling. You're at 125,000, and I just did not know that. I don't track sales, and I don't go online and look at your numbers the way I guess a lot of folks do.
Well, 125,000 puts you in the top tier.
It was number 3.
Yeah.
And that was in a month. That was the first month.
That's,
it was downloaded more than 125,000
That's definitely
times.
considered a success. No wonder you quit your day job. And do you have other awards? How about your nonfiction books? Do they?
I've had talks. Let's see, the equinutrition book was put into a chain called Tractor Supply, which has, I think, 3,000 stores across the country. Mm-hmm. And when they bought it, the publisher gets, one huge sale, and they're all delighted with me and call up for that. Or the most recent novel, The Clincher, went into a promotional feature of a company that puts out a monthly gift box that people subscribe to, and these are horse people, so they'll be getting items of horse treats or little bits of tack and in their...
And your book.
Yes, this time Saddle Box is
Wow.
the name of the company, and they put out The Clincher in the book.
Maybe I'm writing in the wrong genre. No, I'm not. I enjoy my crime mysteries. I really do. Okay. So, do you have any other advice for us? Any ideas what you would like to give us?
I would offer just that if you love stories and you've got a story inside you, get it out. Keep working at it. You will get there. It seems so hard because it is hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Just keep writing.
Diligence.
Yes.
I tell students all the time, please don't work hard, but be diligent. So yeah, very good.
It's good advice.
Well, I want to thank you, Lisa, for sharing all you do in this literary world and coming out to record the show. I'm looking forward to following what you're doing. And we do share this common interest in writing, and I invite you to be a little more active in our Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers group. I know you're not definitely local by being Bremerton-Silverdale area, but you're close enough.
Olympic Peninsula.
Yeah, you're close enough. And in the future, if you know anybody up there in the Panhandle area of our state who would like to be interviewed, bring them down and do it.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, because I know we've got people up there that are writing books, and we need to get them down here and interview them.
Okay.
I'll cut this break. And I would like to thank all of our viewers and the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television and the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers for this production. I also wish to thank the BCAT staff who are working on the cameras and in the director's chair. Our broadcasts are scheduled for Saturday afternoons at 6 p.m. on Wave Cable Channel 3 and Comcast Channel 12. You can also view a live stream on the BCAT website, which is at bkat.org at 6 p.m. Make sure it's Pacific Daylight Time when wherever you are in the world. Keep in touch with our social media and author web pages to discover where you can meet local authors and artists. Look for authors at the Bremerton Bridge Blast on June 29th.
Gig Harbor Festival down in Gig Harbor.
July 20th and 21st. The Kitsap Fair and Stampede, August 21st through the 25th. And the Bremerton Blackberry Festival, August 31st through September 2nd. And in October, we're going to do that blast in the mall again. We're going to take the 4 Saturdays and celebrate Book Month, which is October. So I hope everyone has a pleasant evening and a productive and fascinating week. And until next Saturday, I am Peter Stockwell with Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers in conjunction with Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. Good night.
My first novels were a psychological thriller and a psychological suspense. When my agent asked me about writing a series, I wanted to do someone who hadn't been done to death, somebody whose past and her occupation gave plenty of room to grow. So I came up with this young woman horseshoer. My agent and editor both said, well, that hasn't been done to death or at all. A horseshoer has access to properties of all kinds, rich places, poor places, in between. And often nobody pays attention to workers, the cleaner or the caterer or the horseshoer. So while that horseshoer is there on a property, a big fancy place or a little backyard barn like this one, they're in a position to make observations. And being an observer is one pillar of a horseshoer's skill set. The same mind that notices difference in, say, this horse's right hind hoof over weeks and months can be the observer who notices those two people don't seem to be getting along, or that car isn't usually parked there, or that minor wound should have healed by now. Absolutely. These are my clinchers that I took to horseshoeing school about 13 years ago. Now, clinchers are used to bend the driven horseshoe nail to affix it to a hoof. There's a double meaning here, because this first novel is about Rainy Dale, our hero, who is the clincher.